Welcome to the Tailwind Marketing Podcast, where we talk to IT marketing leaders about how to drive more sales. Hosted by Carlos Corredor, founder of Condor, an Inc. 5000 company and one of the fastest growing IT marketing agencies in the US.
3, 2, 1, 0.
This episode is brought to you by Condor Digital Marketing Agency. Do you feel that your marketing team is stretched thin, running campaigns, building decks, reporting on leads that no one follows up on, and it's still not enough? Condor helps you turn all the marketing efforts no one sees into pipeline that no one can ignore. They are built to work with marketing departments of mid-market B2B tech services across their main functions, demand generation, website, and marketing operations. You can learn more at condoragency.com. In today's episode, I want to welcome Jeff Bradbury. He has over 2 decades of experience leading high-growth tech companies. Right now, he's the VP of Marketing at Network to Code, which is a network automation consultancy. So welcome, Jeff. Thanks for being here. And please, let's start. To start with, why don't you tell us a little more about yourself and your background?
Sure, absolutely, Carlos, and thanks for having me today. This is fantastic. You kind of hit the highlights, right? 20 years in sales and marketing work, primarily on the marketing side. Started out with sales and marketing strategy as a strategy consultant, and then moved to the client side and just fell in love with it. I love the whole challenge of taking a very technical, complex product and finding a way to sort of explain it and present it to the marketplace in a simplified way that sort of gets the value across very quickly. And gets people excited about what that can do for them. So yeah, it's a great fit for me. I've been doing it for, like you said, over 2 decades now, and it's really just become sort of my passion.
Yeah, we were talking before starting to record about the evolution, right? In those 20 years, I'm sure a lot of newer, people that are newer into marketing that perhaps they were not working at the, in the early 2000s, might not have seen that, but how things have evolved from a measurement perspective, from a marketing mix perspective, right? I guess in your words, right? How have you seen that evolution of how things were back then and how to adapt to today's world?
Yeah, well, I think great question. There's been this huge transition towards primarily digital activities, driving a lot, especially on the B2B side, driving a lot of our marketing engagement and marketing tactics. And that really wasn't the case, right? I mean, for those of us who kind of developed during the transition and then matured post the early 2000s, right? There was a time when a lot of your budget would go to traditional media buys and activity, and you spent a lot of time with ad agencies and developing ads and putting ads into the marketplace. Obviously, you still see that a lot on the consumer side, but on the B2B side, that marketing mix has changed drastically. And one of the big reasons is because you can actually measure and dynamically make adjustments to or dynamically personalize a lot of this digital stuff, which is impossible to do in some of the fixed print media space or even video space. So I think that ability, both on the side of being able to personalize, customize, and dynamically adjust the digital content, makes it much easier and much more agile for us to use it and make changes to it. And then on the ability to measure and follow up on results, just open up a whole brand new world for professionals, marketing professionals, in this concept of demand generation and being able to really measure where you were putting your efforts, where you were driving your resources, where you were aligning them, and how you were getting value back out of those resource spends.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point. The way that you explain it, obviously, it's tied to business impact. I think a lot of digital marketers, let's say the ones that started especially the ones that started in this era and they started in the world of clicks and conversions, right? They have a hard time getting their head out of that mindset, right? And they still think in clicks and in conversions and in clicks, right? Whereas like the way that you explain it, right? You're simply saying that we have more levers to tie advertisement efforts to business impact, right? But you're not saying let's use clicks, let's use conversions, right? But I feel that that's a lot, a lot of people today, a lot of marketers and agencies say, no, we're data driven, we use clicks. I mean, yeah, that's not the right type of data driven.
You hit the nail on your head, I think, or on the head. There is I think if you're a young marketer in this space, you probably have an individual contributor role where maybe your role is to only focus on the clicks or only focus on the engagement volume or only focus on the likes or whatever, right? But as you step back and you get more mature, as you mentioned, right, those tactical elements really only add value when they're chained together in some broader context that actually brings a prospect into a conversation with your brand and ultimately with your sales team, right? So that's the challenge, I think, especially in demand generation as kind of that big level term. You've got to find a way to position your demand generation efforts so that you're talking to people at the top of the funnel, you're talking to people in the middle of the funnel, and you're talking to people at the bottom of the funnel, and really helping guide those people through that journey of self-discovery. And again, we mentioned this earlier as we were setting up for this, right? That's not a linear path, right? People don't start at the top of the funnel and just move straight down anymore. It kind of used to work that way when information was limited. But in this day and age, with websites and information and peer review sites and all the things, all the information that's out there, people will dip in and out of different parts of the funnel as they're filling up their information needs, and then really just engage, right, lower middle funnel and down when they're finally ready. They've got enough information and they're confident they understand the issue and they understand the handful of solutions that are relevant to them. Then they engage and they come in very, very well informed. But it took a long, sort of circuitous journey to get them to the point where they were ready to then give you the value of their time to engage with you.
Yeah, I think that's the problem of oversimplifying things in general. It's like as you mentioned, right? Obviously, things have evolved not only from traditional and print to digital, but even within digital, right? Things have also evolved. Paid search, a lot of people are saying that it's too expensive. A lot of people are saying, email is dead, right? But you were mentioning how it's not necessarily about a channel or a tactic working or not working. It's all dependent and relative of the point in which your customer is at the journey. And if you're smart about detecting that and applying those channels, then all of them or each of them can still be very effective.
Absolutely. As I mentioned to you, right, email marketing is still probably our number one converting tactic for driving people into sales conversations and sales engagements, right? Kind of that lower mid funnel area. And we still use it very, very effectively. Now, again, that may be somewhat distinct to our market, right? We're a tech market. We're dealing with technically astute people who need a lot of information to make decisions. We're dealing with long sales cycle product or service, depending on which part of our business they're working with. Which again, it takes a longer amount of time for somebody to get comfortable with what they need to know to then engage and make some decisions and ask questions. And a lot of that comes from multiple engagement points so that by the time you hit them with email, they're actually asking for the email or they're looking forward to it because they know they're going to get something of value. So I think that's to your point. Thinking about which tactics drive people's behaviors and which parts of their buyer's journey is really critical, and the tactics really should work together because you really can't rely on too few tactics, or else you sort of get this sort of this excessive use problem where people stop paying attention because they're getting pinged with emails or ads or whatever every day, and they kind of tune it out. So you kind of have to move around a little bit to keep it fresh. The other thing you mentioned is just how those pieces really kind of have to work together. You have to kind of know where certain tactics work, how they apply to the next step in the process, and how that then applies to the next step in the process to get your particular buying community engaged and involved and moving in the direction you want them to be moving in. I think we've used digital ads very effectively at the very top of our funnel, and then again we've used retargeting programs at the bottom of the funnel to help drive necessary case studies and product comparison information when we knew people were getting down to that stage of the conversation where they wanted to learn more and really make decisions between a couple of things or a particular solution set that we knew we had a good story to tell. The other thing I would say, just more broadly, this kind of actually goes back to the older days of marketing, the pre-digital days, is it's tough to come up with a compelling story. But when you do, especially if that compelling story comes with valuable information, people usually are happy to accept that, right? I don't mind getting an email if it's about something I care about and they give me something of interest as part of the email, right? Maybe it's an interesting picture or meme. Maybe it's an insight from something I didn't know before. Maybe it's a reference to somebody well known in the industry who made a recent change. And I didn't realize that person changed jobs or is speaking at this event, whatever it is. So I think that ability to craft a good message and in that story arc, find ways to deliver value at the right time to the customer or the prospect, you can't go wrong. As long as you're giving them value, they'll be respectful of it, and I think they'll give you value back at some point as long as the fit is there. And I think that's really an important message as well, is it's not just about the tactics, it's not just about the channels, it's also about thinking about what value can I give the customer to show them that I'm thinking about them, I care about their success, and I want to see them be successful.
And I think, no one will disagree with that. I think the challenge is, okay, how do I get there, right? Because a lot of, a lot of marketing teams, they work either on autopilot or they follow process and strategic planning methods from before they were there. And so they organize themselves by channel, or they organize themselves by solution or by meeting day of the week, like, what's your advice on how to plan for this, right? It sounds like customer journey should come first, but like any concept that they should apply or document that they should start off or define first, like how do we get there?
Well, I mean, look, there's lots of marketing books written on this topic, and we could start with, your ICP. Your ICP yields personas. Personas yield buying behaviors. Buying behaviors yield some sort of a buyer's journey. Buyer's journey then maps to the activities that you want to execute to drive them into, like I said, the top of funnel, mid funnel, lower funnel as they engage. And understanding where that handoff happens once you get somebody engaged and interested, how do you then have a very smooth and nuanced handoff to sales so sales can then pick up that lead. You mentioned something earlier about metrics, and I just wanted to say this. My metric, the metric I get graded on at the top of my goal list is number of inbound opportunities generated. Not leads, not meetings, people who open up deals that had a chance of closing for revenue, right? So at the end of the day, that marketing funnel ultimately ends at something that converts into a sales opportunity. So I think that's kind of a key message, kind of in the broader perspective of what we're talking about. But and I apologize, I forgot exactly what the key question there was. Can you remind me, Carlos?
No, it was like in order to send personalized messages, you need to have like a strategic planning process that always brings you back to that. And on a parenthesis, since you brought up the subject, I'll share something with you and the audience. We recently changed our tagline on our website, which used to be a little more technical, and now it's exactly to your point, is more qualified opportunities, please, with emphasis on the word please. A little there, a little wink at people in marketing that understand the importance of that and how maybe all of the efforts are just focused on something else, right? It's just like, please, let's talk about how many, as you mentioned, right? How many opportunities you created. But yeah, so going back to mapping things to that, right? To generate that, and I ask because sometimes even myself, I get lost when we're doing this for us, right? We lose track of, okay, let's come back to, okay, what is the goal of this? At what stage of the journey are we, and how are we going to measure this, right? Because then the team then, okay, we're going to qualify opportunities, and then top funnel, it's not generating qualification. Well, I mean, I don't know, it's easy to get lost, right, in the day-to-day and forget the big goal.
Well, and I think this is where working at a smaller company probably comes with a certain amount of an advantage and some agility. To your point, in larger organizations where you've got some sort of grand campaign plan that's put together early in the year that may have a lot of moving parts to it, and then people are executing within that plan, and I'm doing the social, and I'm doing the digital ads, and I'm doing the web updates. you lose a little bit of that sort of natural give and take that happens when people have that view across the entirety of what you're trying to do. I really like working with a smaller team. I think that's a trend anyway. I think marketing teams have gotten smaller over the years, a little more agile. And so I think, once you kind of figure out what your process is, and I talked, we talked about starting with an ICP and then moving to personas, et cetera, and then getting down to the point where you've actually got some campaign structures, and then you figure out what campaigns you want to talk about for your company, or you have a new product launch, or you've got a new market entrance, or whatever you're trying to do, and you've built some storyline, some narrative around the conversations you want to have with the marketplace, and then you think about your content strategy to support that. You kind of have to come back to that point, just like you said, and recognize that at some point you've got to figure out, okay, this campaign is to promote this product, and we're launching in, call it June, and we're going after these particular customers with it, or this particular market, or whatever. At some point, you've got to really get down to, okay, I'm going to get this many customers into the pipeline. I'm going to get to that customer count, that opportunity count. I'm going to need this many, sales qualified leads, which means I'm going to need this many sales accepted leads, which means I'm going to need this many marketing qualified leads, right? You kind of reverse engineer your way back to that number. We all kind of go through that exercise, but do it in a way that you're being true to the goal of what you're trying to achieve. And then at the end of the day, like I said, you measure yourself against what actually winds up in the pipeline. I think if you have the ability to bring your core team together, and whether it's biweekly or weekly or monthly, whatever your time schedule is, and you can really talk to, what did we achieve? What do we have going on? Do we need to make any course corrections? Is something working that we want to do more of? Is something not working that we want to abandon and do something else? You've got to constantly keep your finger on that pulse of what's going on within the campaign, so you can make those adjustments to make sure that you are getting the right demand generation activity that you had planned for, or maybe not, right? Sometimes you plan and plan and plan, and you come up with a bad plan. And then you have to recognize that, and recognizing that early, and understanding whether you can change out of that paradigm, or you need to just cut bait and switch to something else, is important. I think that's one of the hardest things for a marketer to learn, is when it's okay to raise your hand and say, like, we had a thesis, we tried it, it didn't work, we're going to stop that and go do something else. So yeah, I think that's a big part of sort of how organizations figure out how to work this marketing problem of maintaining visibility across the entirety of the marketing goals, and always keeps in mind how to deliver on those specific goals so they can be successful as an organization. I'll tell you one of my favorite examples of this. I learned it very early, working in my consulting days. I found a marketing team that was doing a great job doing top of funnel demand generation, and they were passing a ton of stuff to the sales team, and the sales team was doing nothing with it, because the sales team had a different priority, and they were rewarded on different things. And so, you had this marketing team that was just churning and churning and churning, and they were pushing all these leads through, and the leads were just going fallow because the sales team wasn't following up on them, right? That's a mismatch between what you're trying to do, and that's where people got disconnected and didn't really understand what the goal was and what the expected results were. So yeah, be aware of that. You want to make sure you're delivering what you want the way you want it to people who are going to be able to then accept it and carry it to the next step.
Yeah, I'm sure there are a lot of sales team out there saying, "Oh, that's not happening to me. I wish."
There may be a lot of sales teams saying that. I've seen it more than once, so I can tell you it does happen.
No,
I'm not saying they were good leads. I'm just saying, right, the team set up its metrics around leads, and it generated as many leads as it could, and spent a lot of money to do that. And when the sales team recognizes those leads are not as valuable as leads they could get someplace else, right, they'll let them sit while they go pursue the things that have a higher propensity to bring them value.
Yeah, and that's another area. Yeah, it's a good segue to talk both about collaboration with sales and also marketing analytics, right? Which, I know you have a lot of experience there. How, what should marketing leaders be doing to take that game, to the next level?
Yeah, let me start with the sales partnership. I really believe that there needs to be a very tight integration between the sales team and the marketing team. And I've been lucky enough at almost all of my companies to have an outstanding sales partner to work with. The goal of marketing, like I said, is to make sales successful. You have got to get the sales team the opportunities they need to hit their numbers and to really drive that revenue into the company. And so anything marketing is doing needs to, at the end of the day, find a way to feed back or to contribute to that success of the sales team. In a lot of ways, the marketing team is really a service to the sales team. Our job is to really do everything we can to figure out how we make the sales team successful. And so as we develop our activities, as we develop our campaigns, as we develop our content and all the other parts of marketing that we do, one of the big pieces is making sure we are empowering the sales team to carry forward. Now, we talked a lot about demand generation. There's a lot of other things you can do, right? There's sales enablement. There's internal workflows and lead pass processes to make sure things are passing smoothly and people get access to the right information at the right time. It's your content strategy. There's a ton of things that go on to help out, but getting your sales team the at-bats they need to get enough sales opportunities, enough wins to be successful, they will give you the latitude and the resources that you need to be successful as long as you're continuing to add value to them.
Mm-hmm. And how about on the analytics side, right? On marketing analytics side, what do you recommend there to, again, so what marketing is presenting to finance, to the executives, right? And even to sales, right? It's valued, it's recognized as true, and in general, what should a dashboard, what should that marketing dashboard look like? And common things that marketing teams are not doing right to get that right.
Yeah, well, again, I think, and you mentioned this a little earlier, we don't talk about clicks. We don't talk about page views except ancillarily about whether the trend is up or not on overall website visitors. We really focus in on what's driving to the sales pipeline. So we drive to inbound engagement driving to sales meetings, and then conversions into pipeline from inbound engagement. Those are the 3 of the 5 metrics that I track on a monthly basis when I do my executive team review. They're really fundamental to the organization, right? If everything else is working, those metrics will look great. And if nothing else is working and those metrics are still good, you still look great. And if those metrics aren't working, it doesn't matter what's happening behind the scenes. I've had executives want to get into the detail. I want to know, what the page trends are, and they have a curious about how many visitors and how many click-throughs and what's the percentage on digital ads. And the truth is, I think people are curious, but in running a business, most people don't have time to wade into that stuff. You need to give them the TLDR version of marketing team's doing a great job. Here's our campaigns. Here's what we're running. Here's the things we're doing. And here's the metrics. And at the end of the day, if that metric is around pipeline development and pipeline close, most people will back off. If you're hitting your numbers and you're driving behavior, most executives will be like, thank you very much for your service. Keep doing a good job.
Exactly. When you're looking at the metrics they care about, they trust you that you're looking at the detail that gets the efforts there, right? But if you start with the details, that's when they lose trust in you because you're not seeing the high level, right? If you come up with open rates and click-through rates of your emails or of ads, then they start getting anxious. It's like, hey, when is this guy going to show me the quality for the that we generated this quarter? Because otherwise, I don't think he gets what his job is, So I agree, and I think it's a great advice.
Yeah, I'll add one more thing to that, and that is, again, digital marketing has gotten quite sophisticated and nuanced, right? We know when we look at an open rate for an email that we should have very different open rates for a cold list versus a warm list, right? We know that this campaign, which is a remarketing or retargeting campaign, is going to have very different metrics, right? So if you're talking to somebody for whom marketing isn't their natural environment, they don't know those nuances. And so showing a blended, an average across everything isn't really informative because, right, then you're masking sort of the different things you're doing, and going into the details of each individual one is too complicated and too long. So I find it best personally to try and keep that stuff in the shadows, and just kind of focus on the end of the process that everybody else there cares about. And again, luckily, my CRO is 100% supportive of that. He's like, look, just tell me what my sales team is doing, and I'll back you up and tell you how good the sales team is closing these deals. And as long as we're hitting our revenue numbers, you guys just be fine. I will say, we do take on a burden, right? We do try to take on something like 30% of the pipeline from marketing generated leads. That's a big deal for us. That's our goal, is to hit 30% of our pipeline generated by of our new pipeline, not existing customer, but our new pipeline driven by marketing generated leads. That's our sort of our internal metric, what we're trying to do. And we think as long as we're continuing to do that, we fit into the CRO's sort of overall revenue plan. So yeah, it works out well for us.
Yeah, I haven't met the first CRO that asks about how website visits, or click-through rates are doing.
Oh, CROs are too busy, right? They've got a sales team to run. They've got real business to close. Yeah, the trials, you get questions from like the CEO and the COO and the CFO, and they want to know what I spent this much on digital marketing. What did you get? And right, so you've got to kind of fight those battles one-on-one. I try to keep those out of the executive team meetings and move those to one-on-one conversations where we can dive in on what the real question is and get to the answers we need to get to there.
Yeah. Jeff, and you guys, you're an automation consultancy, right? And I know, yeah, you're leveraging AI also for marketing purposes and for the marketing team, right? Mind sharing, any insights there or advice on the AI revolution and agents and workflows and assistants, and what have you seen that is working for you guys?
Yeah, well, again, I'll emphasize, I come from a tech background. I've worked tech marketing my whole career, tech and telecom. I traditionally work for smaller companies around 200, 250 people. So, I don't come from, there are other problems that really, really large enterprises tackle and that they're good at and that they kind of, can explain and work through. From my side, we don't have a lot of, fancy custom AI tools that were generated for us. We're like a lot of other people out there. We're looking at what's going on in the marketplace and trying to pick the tools that fit what we're doing and how we're doing it. We're exploring more. Every time I talk to one of my vendors, right, one of my very first 2 or 3 questions is, what are you doing with AI, and how's that AI going to help me with my marketing efforts? Whether that's talking to HubSpot about what they're doing with AI within their CRM platform and how it's going to help me with my CRM platform, manage my data better, manage my content better, manage my web pages better. It goes to my third-party agency. What are you guys doing? So, right, everybody I talk to is, what are you doing with AI, and how does that help me? Because I know I can't compete head-to-head with all the other people out there in the space who have roughly the same size team and the same size budget, and more years of business company development behind them. So I've got to find a way to use AI to sort of leapfrog over some of those competitors and get out in front of them. So I think AI is obviously, it's the big topic kind of across every technical conversation and every industry we talk about. And it's really quite amazing what it's achieved. I mean, 3 years ago, AI was this very niche, very unique thing that kind of only happened in certain places. And now AI is ubiquitous. You see it in everything. Google gives me an AI response to queries now, right? You can go use, Google Gemini or ChatGPT or whatever. What I will say is the tools are getting more and more robust and more baked into a lot of things we're doing. I think we've all seen people use AI to help develop content. It's fantastic at developing content. You can spot AI developed content if it's just like, give me a blog and right, you're like, well, that was written by AI. That wasn't very good. But if you've got a good storyline, you build an outline for it, you've got a little bit of writing skill, and you can tell it exactly what you're looking for and kind of the structure you want it in, AI does a great job of accelerating your ability to create that. Same thing with imagery, right? You can provide a baseline imagery and ask for additions or variations or customizations to certain imagery. Certain tools are getting more and more sophisticated on the visual side. They do that very, very well. We just started using a new tool that will review a video and pull out the recommended most relevant clips for you. So it will actually already pull the clips and do the captioning. And you just, I like that clip or I don't like that clip. I'm gonna start that clip a little earlier, run it a little longer, shorten it, whatever. That's really good, right? Or before that new video tool I was just mentioning, right? We would just take the video transcript, dump it into an AI tool, and ask it, what are the most interesting points about this topic in this conversation? It would go out and pull it out and tell us what the timestamps were, and we just go back and have our editor grab them. So there's a ton of ways you can use AI. Obviously, all the ad engines are using AI. There's a ton of things out there. I think the trick is find low-hanging fruit that you can use quickly that is relevant to you doing your job in a sort of a daily basis. Content writing, like I said, is it takes a lot of time. I've got a small team. If I can save my team 20 or 25% of their time writing content, whether it be social content, whether it be website content, whether it be blog content, articles, whatever we're producing, that saves us a lot of time. That saves us several days a week across my 6-person team trying to write this stuff. So having a smart use of AI, a smart application, like I said, the AI editor I was just talking about, those are low-hanging fruit. They're low cost, they're easy to adopt, and they give you very specific tools for very specific uses. Once you kind of get the hang of it, once stuff is sort of you're in a place where it's baked into what you're doing and you've got a good process, I would say then you can start looking at some of the more sophisticated AI tools that are more enterprise grade and the things that kind of come in and do bigger AI lift for you. Again, we're a smaller company. I don't have the budget to go out and drop 6 figures on a new AI-driven enterprise solution. But there's plenty of free or low cost monthly SaaS type things that add a ton of value right now. And I would say if you're not out there investigating that stuff and finding ways to use it within your team, you're probably missing out on a chance to improve your team.
Yeah, and before we wrap up, Jeff, just because your iPhone just said it was time to stand, so soon, but like, is there anything that I haven't asked? Well, I guess I have a follow-up question there before. Any favorite tools? For those, let's say, entry-level tools, right? Low-hanging fruits. Any favorites that you recommend?
I mean, it's a little. It's kind of an obvious choice. I think ChatGPT is still doing a great job on just pure writing capability. I've used it against Gemini. I've used it against Claude. I think they all do a good job. And of course, I've said this today. 2 weeks from now, it may be completely different because the market's moving so fast, the technology is moving so fast here. But I think they're all very, very good.
For example, just specially made for that, or was at least initially built only to write content. And ChatGPT is still doing a better job, in our opinion. So we stuck with ChatGPT. I agree.
Yeah. So I think ChatGPT is very, very successful at developing content and being smart about content, and it takes chained guidance very, very well, right? So if you start with an outline, have it populate the outline, make some of the edits to it, then tell it to create copy paragraph by paragraph, and then review the entire story, right? By that 5th or 6th prompt where you've actually reviewed the entire story after you've blown all the content out, and then you've reread it and you've kind of put it back in your voice, and then you say, okay, tighten it up. I want to make it a little more terse. I want to make it a little more direct, or whatever changes you want to make to it, and then give that last clean sweep. It works quite well. Again, we're quality over quantity. We'll put the time in to really make it something high value. But yeah, I think ChatGPT does a great job doing that. We've been quite successful using some of the various visual AI tools, especially out of the Adobe suite. We've been pretty successful with our creative team doing that. I mentioned that video editor, which was, we just found that on a whim. And one of our partners was talking about using it for a joint webinar we were doing. We tried it out. It was amazing. It's called Opus Clips.
Okay.
Quite interesting.
Yeah,
So yeah, but again, new people are coming all the time. It's crazy how fast new AI concepts and ideas are coming out. So yeah, like I said, whatever I said today may be completely different in a handful of weeks.
Yeah, Opus Clip is one, and the Script is another one that I think they're competitors. But yeah, I remember them. Jeff, anything else? Anything else that I haven't asked that you want to share that you think would be an advice that people would benefit from listening, or in general, resources, references, good books, wrap up thoughts?
Maybe one. I think what would be interesting is, I think, for anybody out there who's a marketer, who's thinking about, where do I go next in my career, or what's in front of me. I will say the world of marketing is still, I think, one of the most exciting places to be. I will tell you, we talked a lot about demand generation. We talked a bit about some of the creative stuff we do as we develop campaigns and produce stuff. But there's another world of what happens on the marketing side that doesn't get as much attention. But if you're going to be a marketing professional, at some point you're going to wind up working with or around it, right? Whether that be the brand team working on branding and brand development, whether it's the field team and working on field activities, whether that's analyst and media relations and PR, analyst relations, media relations and PR, right? There's a whole partner channel. We didn't really talk about partner channel that much. There's a whole host of other activities in the marketing function that don't always come to the forefront, and certainly didn't in this call. And I would just say, if you're a young marketer and you're thinking about how, what your fit is in the organization and where you're going to develop and grow, I would say it's worth taking a look at what the other people in your marketing team do. Get a sense for what that breadth of capabilities are and how they all interact. The truth is, they're all in the marketing team for a reason, and they play off of each other, right? The brand has to set the tone and the key messages and the overall structure for the demand gen team to run their campaigns underneath. You may have some brand campaigns that you have to sort of run air cover for you that you fly under. Whatever you do at the tactical level obviously has to fit into what the brand's doing. You might have partner stuff you have to work with, and whatever you create content-wise has to be repurposed and used with the partner team. Some stuff has to be converted to the field and taken into the field. There's just a whole, and again, all this is built on recognition and development of the brand, and that's where the analyst relations and the media relations and the PR all comes in. This is an integrated team, and when you're a small team like I work at, I kind of do a bunch of that other stuff, and then my team focuses on the demand gen, web development, content stuff. But as the teams get bigger and those functions start to get spread out, they don't always interact at the tactical level. And so if you're a younger marketer, go find a reason to interact with those groups at a tactical level. Offer to convert a piece of content into a partner piece. Offer to engage and support a field activity. It's amazing what you learn. It's amazing how much more the marketing team sort of functions well when the pieces kind of understand each other, know what they're doing, and never pass up a chance to talk to a customer. You cannot be a good marketer if you don't know how to talk to your customers. That's the core of it. And so any chance you have to get out there and participate in a field event, in a trade show or a conference of some sort, supporting an executive, speaking somewhere, helping to write an article or presentation piece, whatever it is, getting used to speaking to your customers is only going to help you moving forward.
Thank you for that, Jeff. The importance of a T-shaped marker, among a couple other things there, but yeah, thank you for being on the podcast, and great to have you.
Carlos, it's been fantastic. I had a great time. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the Tailwind Marketing Podcast. If you enjoyed it, remember to subscribe for future episodes. Until next time.